sound last 1 week at a time. SCV chat starts now.
Like right now? Like right the second right now?
Doing the bull dance, feeling the flow, working it.
Now it starts.
Like right now.
Right now.
Like right now.
Well, I'm still sharing in the group, so you could say that, we haven't technically started. So
Well,
just 1 second. I'm almost done. Working it.
Are you feeling the flow?
I'm feeling the flow. And almost. Let me just share it on my personal SCV page 1 second. And done.
And Hawaii.
And Hawaii. We sign up for Patreon. We might explain that to you one day.
Maybe. Well, maybe not. Probably not.
Probably not. Yeah, I wouldn't. All right. Well, welcome everybody to SCV Chat. Before we get started, please remember, views and opinions expressed in this broadcast not necessarily the view of the opinions of the SCV, its GEC, nor Division for Grade Camps, our executive director, or any other subsidiaries.
Subsidiaries.
Close enough. I was doing fine all the way up until I got to there.
Till you got to there.
How is everybody doing tonight?
I'm a little bit perplexed, but we'll talk about that later.
Okay. Well, I feel that.
Personally, I've had the day from hell. Hi, Todd.
Hi, Todd.
Yeah. He said hi, guys, or hi, y'all. So
hi, y'all.
Hi, Todd.
Yeah, I know. My Sunday carried in from today, and it great day yesterday, all the way up until I got some news. So it's joyful. Yeah, joyful month.
Yeah. Well, hey, at least you're thought about. People think about you.
Yeah. Apparently, you need to find someone that looks at you like Moose looks at an SCV meeting.
And I want to point out there that I did not post that.
I know you didn't. I know who did, and he's going to be in trouble later.
And I would like for the record to accurately reflect that I did not post that. I would have picked a worse picture of you.
Yeah. I know you would have. So I'm almost a bit thankful that you didn't. But to the person that posted that, me and you will have a talk later.
I've decided to be nice to you because we have a group chat. Which here's what. Well, let's just look. There's one. There's another one. Forrest isn't watching, or else he'd be included on the list. So we have 4 in the chat tonight, and if you know what I'm talking about,
no, we're going to go into it right now because you just introduced me to the Immortal 600. So this is the only part I'm talking tonight. By the way, guys, hi. So no, let's
there he is, and there's another one.
So let's talk about it. So last night, my closest friends and my father decided they were going to have a little joke.
It started Saturday.
My apologies. So what they do is they change their names in the group chat on our Facebook group chat.
First of all, back up a second. Back up a second. So for those that don't know, last year in 2023, I was one of 3 members of the SCV to win the distinguished.
Should not have opened. What
the distinguished Robert E. Lee Award, and also this year, 2024, my good friend and compatriot Forrest Dawes won the distinguished Robert E. Lee Award, one of the 3 this year. And
no, just wait. They decided to change their. First off, I couldn't get over the picture in the group chat. That was the group photo was the first thing that popped up. Thanks for that.
That changed the group photo.
No, not the group photo. The first group picture you sent in the group chat this morning.
Oh
yeah. That got me. By the way, I will give you congratulations. But here's what they changed their names to: Robert E. Lee Award winner 2024 Forrest. Robert E. Lee Award winner 2023 Connor. And then just because I guess I've called her Biscuit, Susie joins in and she does AOT Ladies Appreciation winner Cupcake. And
actually, y'all didn't change the names. I changed the names.
You changed the names. And me trying to join in, not expecting the full-on assault on my character that was about to happen.
It was not an assault on your character. It was to make you feel bad.
I changed my name to 2 times Heritage Defense Medal winner. Connor goes in and does, I've won that 7 times. Sucks to suck.
No, no, you're putting words in my fingers. I did not say sucks to sucks. That is a very honorable and distinguished medal, and I'm very happy to have it multiple times. But I can only win the Robert E. Lee Award once. But no, it started at lunch Saturday. We had a Mississippi Division Executive Council meeting where I can go ahead and say this. It has been, or it will be 15 years, but the Mississippi Division has formed and officially formed a committee, exploratory committee, and exploring the option of hosting the 2028 National Reunion in Vicksburg, Mississippi. We had a great time in Vicksburg in 2013. Like I said, it's been about 15 years, and we want to try to do it again. So we're looking. We got permission from the division because the division's going to be doing it, not just a brigade or a camp. Hey, Susan. So anyway, we're doing it as a division-wide project, and we wanted to get permission, and we got permission. So now we're officially exploring. In fact, right before the show started, I was emailing the Vicksburg Convention Tourism Bureau for asking their help with lining up hotels and stuff like that, so we can create our bid to present within this next year for the Confederation to consider. So, So anyway, we ate at Whataburger, and Forrest is a movie fan like I am.
Yeah.
And we both love the movie 8 Seconds. It's a fantastic movie. If you've never seen it, Moose has never seen it.
No.
And one of the scenes in 8 Seconds is Lane Frost and Kelly go to a Whataburger, and his like opening line of dialogue is, "How's your water chicken?" And that's what Forrest ordered. So anyway, that's like the first. Yeah, he is a very deprived child. I don't think
I'm a mistreated child.
I don't think it's from. I think it's just you've never wanted to sit down and watch the movie, or you've never made time to sit down and watch the movie. But it is such a great movie.
It's more that I for those who don't know, I have insomnia. So a lot of my friends, in order to help me with that, give me a lot of movie and TV show recommendations. And it's either like a multi-trilogy or 8 seasons long of a TV show. And so that takes up a good portion of my time. So yeah, I haven't got around to watching 8 Seconds.
Yeah, this is a 1-2 hour movie. Anyway, and with you having a bull and working in the livestock community, it's a must see. But anyway, so dinner went downhill from there.
Yes.
With the jokes, and then we began making fun of poor Moose.
They stole
melatonin. You left it on the table and went to the restroom.
No, I went to throw away my trash.
No, I threw away the trash. You went to the restroom.
No, my trash wasn't on the tray. So I went and grabbed and threw mine away and refilled my drink. And I turn around and I'm looking at the table. And I'm like, and I'm looking at y'all and I'm like, did y'all not see someone steal my phone? They're like, no.
We're like, no.
Did you leave it in the restroom? I was like, no, I came back to the table after I used the restroom and put my phone down to grab my trash. And they did this for like a good 5 minutes while I'm pushing people around in this Whataburger trying to find my phone because, you know, I'm involved on so many social medias at this point. You know, that would be just awful to have to figure out how to sign in to everything again. They keep it from me for a good, like, as I said, 3 to 5 minutes. And then they just are like, oh, we kind of feel bad for him. He looks like a struggling child. And I was like, which one of y'all have it? And my own father, who had to get the knife out of my back real quick before he could, gives me back my phone.
I've been cheated, been mistreated. When will I be loved? I've been put down, I've been pushed back.
We're doing that. We're doing that next year at in Texas. Forrest. We're doing that in Texas. Anyway. So we've been excuse me. We've been hazing Moose.
No. Let's not. Again, this is the only time I'm talking tonight, so you know, I'm going to use it. Of course, you're right. But yeah, no, they didn't continue to rag on me about the fact that those two have won the Robert E. Lee Award. That 3 Mississippians 3 years in a row have won the Robert E. Lee Award, and they continued to make fun of me for the last 3 days. They tag each other's full name. So they've only communicated, and even over the phone has communicated with as Robert E. Lee Award winner Forrest and Robert E. Lee Award winner Connor. That's all they have done the past 3 days. I went from we had a great meeting. We are starting the works on a new award. We threw in our
yes.
Hey guys.
Wait. I'm going to interrupt you really quickly. Jordy, guess what? Mississippi has adopted the Ag Award. Ha!
Yes, and that's awesome. Again, I'm part of the agriculture community, so I'm very happy to see that. And then you've not seen 8 seconds. Oh yeah, and I was very happy that the division approved us for the reunion, and we are getting a bid together to show to national and the convention. It was a great Saturday.
Yeah, it really was.
You too.
And we got to haze Moose and hide his phone from him. So
I did make a bet.
The moral of the story is messing with Moose is fun. If you ever want to see him scream and squirm, take his phone from him. Yeah. And so Adam, you said that you would pay good money to see me do the Texas Stomp. I've got roughly a year to learn the dance, and I'm rather uncoordinated. But I think that is with us in Texas. That's got to happen at some point, even if it's just in the lobby.
Let's sell money for it for the museum.
Yeah. Hey, Forrest, I'm not saying that I want to get a new tux, but if we do it, we've got to do it in the lane and tough tuxes.
Yeah,
just throwing that out there. But no, Moose, your time will come. But anyway,
I know that. I do enjoy giving it back to y'all. Like I told Connor that to be a jerk, I would love to win it before the age of 30, simply because Connor's the youngest Robert E. Lee Award winner at 30, and I'd love to beat that record.
And I hope
so I can.
And what did I say back?
You were actually very nice to me. You said, "I hope you do it,"
and I hope that you do.
But give it, 25 years, 50 years. I don't care. I'm in this for my ancestors. I would love to win it. I'm not going to lie to you. But, whenever that time comes, my time has come. It is what it is.
So anyway, tonight we're talking about and this is going to be a rather we wanted to do this episode next week. We had something else planned, but we just kind of got our weeks crossed on us. That's my buddy. And we may and we may dive into it a little bit more, but next week as well, kind of do it as an ongoing series. But tonight we're going to talk about the Immortal 600 and talk about a very brief overview. And of course, that's what we try to do with our historical talks, with the exception of like the Barksdale talk I did last month was an exception to our normal historical talks, because Barksdale, we focused very heavily on about 2 hours of that brigade. This is normally we try to do a generalized history overview of a topic. That way, try to pique your interest so that you will dive more into it on your own. Especially a topic as important as the Immortal 600, because it kind of as you study into it, segues into a lot of different aspects of the war that as far as the Yankee narrative covers, doesn't really cover it. Whether it's war crimes and atrocity against civilian population, or the more obvious war crimes against prisoners of war, as well as the whole Andersonville, what I call Andersonville myth, and things.
Or they blame it on us, say it's retaliation because of us.
Yeah, well, that's the big thing that goes into the Andersonville myth. Again, we want everybody to go out and do more research. We have Adam's suggestions of books that we can put out there. David Pope sending some stuff. There's a couple of good videos out on YouTube. Be careful with what you find at the National Park Service, obviously, as well as other avenues out there. It's been, let's see, April, May, June, July, August, 5 months since I've been through the museum. And Adam, I know you're watching. You could put something in there. I'm sure we cover something about them in the timeline. But definitely it's something worth you on your own going in and learning about, because in this modern war that we're in, with Yankee, I hate to say scholarship, but the Yankee narrative that they keep pushing on us, there's not a lot that is us centric out there. So definitely want y'all to go in and look. Hey, Adam actually has a 600 medal in the museum also. And also there's a member of the Immortal 600 buried up there near the area. So definitely this is just a way to kind of get your appetite wet about it. Again, so this is kind of what piqued our interest, which I'd heard of the Immortal 600 growing up. I knew some of the story, not the full extent of the story. But in fact, talk about Immortal 600 books. There was a book written by one of the Immortal 600 that's available with a Library of Congress's website. I think it's Library of Congress, or at least archive.org.
By Major Murray.
Yes, Major J. Ogden Murray. So, and it was published in 1911. So it's firsthand. In fact, there's a picture of him wearing what looks like UCV stuff. I'll see if I can share the screen. Here we go. Share. So that's the inside cover page. Firsthand document source and things like that are very, very important for us to look at.
I hope I'm probably going to put that on my next reading list, simply because, fun fact, until a couple weeks ago, or at this point months, I think a couple weeks before reunion, Adam posted a video about the Immortal 600. And that was the first time I ever heard about it. And then when we went to reunion, going to the actual, how do I want to put fort? You know, just
Fort Pulaski.
Yeah, Fort Pulaski. You know, and actually getting a bit of a Reader's Digest between Dad and Connor on the subject, and a bit of a Reader Digest tonight. I was trying my best to read up on it a little bit, so I wasn't just completely a deer in headlights tonight. But it's just such a awful and powerful story. I mean, how they treat us and how they treated these poor men is just, oh gosh, it sends shivers down my spine, and why we can never forget their story.
Right. So and we're going to go ahead and dive into it because we have to have a rather short episode this evening. You know, we're on a clock, so so looking into it, you know, it's 1863 is about when the story really begins. And well, some of the guys they were actually captured in 62. But you know, we're going to start the story in like I said, 1863, August of 1863. The Federals decide that they're going to start laying siege works and recapturing Charleston. Charleston's important to them because that is the cradle of secession. It's where the first secession ordinance was passed. Fort Sumter, obviously, you know, kicks off the war. I would say Lincoln's election kicked off the war. But you know, potato, tomato. But again, that's their one of their goals is to you know, well, the march to the sea was to make Georgia howl, but to punish South Carolina and punish the whole South. So August 21st, 1863, Major General Quincy A. Gilmore, who was federal commander in the Charleston area at the time, sent a message to PTG Beauregard, who some people say he looks like Betty McClooney, other people say that he looks like Donald Sutherland. It's up to you to decide.
Isn't Commander McClooney an educator?
Yes, he is.
Oh,
and he'll be at our education conference that we'll talk about a little bit towards the end of the show. So get that graphic ready to pull up there, Moosey. Anyway, he writes a letter to Beauregard and tells him that it's the Federals' intention to start shelling Charleston. And he uses it under the guise of, hey, Charleston is a military city. You've got an arsenal there. You've got, you know, a harbor there that blockade runners can come in through. It's a major depot as well as a major, you know, rail line for the South. It's a military target. Beauregard writes back and says, hey, if you're going to start shelling me at 4:00 in the morning, I do not have the opportunity to get my civilian non-combatants out of this city. You know, there's no way that I can do that in time. And the Federals pretty much say, we don't care. So, you know, take that for what you will. So Gilmore, in his infinite wisdom, puts up several different, you know, specifically the Swamp Angel, the 8-inch Parrott rifle that was on Morris Islands, you know, roughly 4 miles across the harbor from the city, as well as mortars, and sets up a classic siege. And that before dawn, they start firing into the city. The Federals send roughly, you know, before dawn, about, you know, some estimates of 1,500 mortar shells, as well as other shells into Charleston. And this bombardment would last for the next 567 days. And it was a, you know, heck of a time. And again, this is, are there military targets in it? Yes, but it's also a civilian city. You have men that are civilians, you have women that are civilians, you have children that are civilians, you have military hospitals, things of that, all within range of these guns, and the Federals are not caring where these shells are landing. They are specifically, they're not specifically targeting military installations. In fact, 1/4 of the city that was, specifically targeted and was the heaviest bombed area. They named it Gilmore Town or something along that nature. So again, Yankees, bad, targeting civilian population. Surprise, surprise. Guess what they've been doing for the entire portion of the war, though? They've been targeting the civilian population. Think back to the sacking of Fredericksburg of 1862. And that's why it's such an important story that we start there in 1863, because, they leave out the fact, most historical records leave out the fact that the civilian population had the war waged against them. Most people do not, or I say most people do not, most modern historians leave that out. And that is a key point to remember. Eventually, though, Beauregard is transferred out of South Carolina and into North Carolina, and Major General Samuel Jones takes command of the city. This is April 20th, 1864, or thereabouts. He also takes command of the entire Department of South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. Meanwhile, the federal general who started this, he's also relieved of command, and another officer is put in charge. A little bit about Major General Samuel Jones. He's born December 17th, 1819. So 1819. I thought that was kind of funny. But he was a Virginian. He attended West Point. He graduated 19th out of 52 in the class of 1841. He served in Maine and Florida on the frontiers. In 1846, he returned to West Point as a mathematics and artillery instructor. Unlike many officers at the time, he did not go to war in Mexico, or at least he did not see action at the war in Mexico. In 1853, he was promoted to captain and served in Texas until 1858. He was made assistant judge advocate for the Army. When Virginia seceded from the Union on April 27th, 1860, or after Virginia secedes from the Union, and on April 27th, 1861, he resigns from the Army and offers his service to the Confederacy. He fights at First Manassas, commanding artillery under Beauregard. Promoted to brigadier general. He led a brigade in Virginia, but was soon sent to Florida, promoted to major general, and was sent around to various different posts from Florida to Mississippi to Tennessee. As far as an officer, he had a very bad habit of questioning his superiors, and often at times refusing orders. For example, in the autumn of 1862, he was ordered to send reinforcement to General Bragg during the Kentucky campaign, Perryville campaign, and he didn't. And that's one of the reasons why Bragg was like, "No, I lost at Perryville." Because of that, though, he got transferred to the command of the Department of Western Virginia. And at that point, he was mainly in charge of supply routes and logistics and stuff like that. But he pissed off Robert E. Lee because he continued to argue with Robert E. Lee. And if there's one thing we've learned in history, you don't argue with Robert E. Lee. And because Robert E. Lee was mad, relieved him of command, and sent him to Charleston. So by the time that Jones makes it to Charleston, the city has been battered for 8 months. 8 months. Constantly, day in, day out, shelling. Imagine what that has done to what's left of the civilian population that hasn't fled the city. Imagine the beautiful city that it was. I mean, we had a great time touring, Charleston. If you're at the National Reunion at Charleston, you saw the what was left of the antebellum structures and stuff like that. I mean, this town's been around since before America, when it was Charlestown, before these United States of America. It's one of the earliest, one of the earlier colonial settlements, in the South. But it's been shelled for 8 months straight. Now, it's not like the civilian death toll was high, but it was way too much. you know, it was it was extreme. It was too high because, you know, during war, you do not target civilians. You know, General Lee, when the Gettysburg campaign was going on, he ordered that his men should treat the Yankee civilian population with nothing but respect. So again, completely different war, completely different people, and that goes back to why we're reading Albion Seed. Remember to join Patreon if you want to hear the next episode of our podcast on Albion Seed. It helps us stay on the air, and you get to learn some more. But I digress. The federal artillery had done a ton of damage throughout the city. In fact, there were very few buildings that were in range of the guns that were not damaged. The streets were so pockmarked with craters. It was to the point where horses, dogs, cats, other animals that had been killed in the street, there were so many of them, and the population was so busy hunkering down that they didn't even have time to bury the dead animals. So you've got rotting animal corpses out there, which brings flies, which brings disease. And I may have frozen up there for a second. Can you still hear me, Moosey?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. I just had the little thing on my computer says my connection's unstable, so I may freeze out, may not. But again, this is what's going on. Again, they called the area that was worst shot up the Gilmore district. So again, they get a new federal commander. The Federals do as well. The Gilmore fell off a horse or something like that, so he was relieved of command. So Jones gets there, and he is in the city, and he does not have the forces to attack. Again, this is 1864. This is August of 1864, or excuse me, summer of 1864. Spring, summer of 1864. Sorry, I'm thinking right now is August. This is April. Yeah. Anyway, situation in the Confederacy is looking like this. Vicksburg's fallen. The Confederacy's cut in two. Shiloh's happened. The two main armies in the field on this side of the Mississippi is the Army of Tennessee and the Army of Northern Virginia. Robert E. Lee in the spring of 1864 is duking it out with Grant in the Wilderness and Spotsylvania Courthouse, getting ready for Cold Harbor. You know, the fighting around Richmond. The Army of Tennessee is getting ready to start duking it out with William Tecumseh Sherman in Georgia. You know, it's a very, very desperate situation, trying to put what little bit of manpower we have to spread. You know, we're sending troops up there, we're sending troops down there. So Jones does not have a full army force to go on the offensive and drive the Federals out. And Jones inherits a situation where there is the civilian population is being shelled. So Jones reportedly requests 50 federal prisoners to be brought down, and there are some accounts in the OR that say that Jones sent a message over to the federal commander and was like, "Hey, we've got 50 Federals. We're putting them in the heaviest shelled portions of the city. We're not putting them around military targets. We're putting them around civilian targets. Stop targeting civilians." And Jones and the Confederacy gets a lot of backlash over that. But again, and of course in Murray's account, he says that it was only rumored that happened. My research reading on the topic, you know, the articles that I read were saying that he did request from Bragg, and Bragg, you know, sent the 50, and, you know, so on and so forth. Would love to, because I'm trying to follow what's being said in the chat as well. So those that are So those that are watching, if you have like the Kennedys, if I'm saying anything wrong, please correct me on this very brief overview. But again, the ones, the 50 that were brought down were in civilian areas. There's reports of, there's a copy of the Charleston Mercury that said that those that were brought down were put up in houses and treated with respect, and they were officers, not enlisted men. Angered by this, the Federals decide to put out that the federal commander sends word up to the Secretary of War, Stanton, and Stanton is, meh, I'm angry. And so he orders a like number of troops to be brought down and put in front of military targets. And that is the key difference between the two situations. One is trying to save civilians. And David says they also signed affidavits saying they were treated the same as other prisoners of war. The other side says, and the other side is trying to prevent harm to military targets. That is apples and oranges there. You think about it. You have civilian non-combatants, you have women, and you have children in a city being shelled for 8 months. Then you have, again, the ones who were doing the shelling, using that as, and that's all they wanted. That's all the Confederacy wanted, was for, hey, target our military industrial complex if you want to. Leave the women folk and the kids out of it. The Federals take it and escalate it up a notch. Well, we are going to continue to shoot at your military stuff. We are going to continue to shoot at your city, but we're also going to put your men in the line in the line of danger. So get over it. Still bad. It's worse. So eventually Jones works out a prisoner exchange. They exchange 50 officers and men for the 50 Federals. But then right before it's to happen, Grant issues or Lincoln issues General Order number 252, saying, hey, no, and this is the second time that the federal government has issued an order about not paroling or trading Confederate officers. So that falls apart. That falls to pieces. A yellow fever epidemic breaks out in Charleston, and instead of leaving the Yankee officers there in the city to catch yellow fever and die, the Confederates move them to another prisoner of war camp, get them out of the hostile situation, get them out of the sickness and everything like that. Just want to point out there, if we really didn't care about them, why didn't we leave them in there for them to catch the pestilence of yellow fever? Just pointing that out there. Most historians forget to bring up that point. When Jones sends out word to the Federals that, hey, we've moved your guys out of the city because of yellow fever, they say, well, we'll send your guys out of off of Morris Island instead of them being shelled by your own side and used as human shields to prevent what happens in war. So they move them to Fort Pulaski, Georgia. One thing that I forgot to mention, just because I went down this rabbit hole in my research, most of the Confederate POWs that were sent, most of the Immortal 600 were originally kept at Fort Delaware. Fort Delaware was opened in about 1862. Most of the Confederates captured at Gettysburg were imprisoned at Fort Delaware. By August of 1863, there were more than 11,000 prisoners on the island. By war's end, it held almost 33,000 Confederate soldiers. Fun fact about Fort Delaware, it was also used to hold political dissidents, people who did not agree with the Lincoln's administration's war, or Lincoln's war. So when, like, the Maryland Secession Convention, for example, when Lincoln arrested them and, didn't give them the writ of habeas corpus and trampled on the Constitution, everything like that, they were, taken to military prisons, like Fort Delaware. So that's just a little fun fact for you. Again, another interesting avenue of history that the Yankees forget to tell us about. So that's why, again, it's good to dive more into, because it opens up all these other windows and doors. But talking about Fort Delaware, the overall death rate for prisoners there was about 7.6%, which is surprise or comparatively low as compared to like Helmira or Camp Chase or Point Lookout or anything like that. And in 1864, we will go. So we'll fast forward to 1864 because that's where we are. All across the North, rations for men were cut, and we'll dive back. Or prisoners were cut, so we'll go back in there, or dive back into that a little bit later. Trying to get out of my Fort Delaware notes to get to my other notes. So in October of 1864, the Immortal 600 were transferred to Fort Pulaski in Georgia. Moose, do you have any pictures from our Fort Pulaski trip uploaded and everything?
I think I took them out last week for Jason.
Let's see if we can't find some.
If you find them, I'll start making room for them.
I know Susie's got them on her Facebook, but I'm not going to pull it up. But anyway, the Confederates are moved down there. Roughly on October 23rd, 1864, the ill-clothed men, they that's how they are described, that they were ill-clothed, arrived. And the Federals actually gave them, extra food and promised extra blankets and clothing, but it never happened. Because then the order came down to starve the Confederate prisoners of war because of what was happening at Andersonville, which again kind of goes into another interesting, and Libby Prison and other ones, but goes into some interesting aspects of the war that we're going to bring up. The Shenandoah Valley has burned, thanks to Philip Sheridan. So the breadbasket of the Confederacy has gone up in flames. The Georgia has fallen, or is in the middle of falling. The Confederate Army is, Army Northern Virginia is besieged at Petersburg. We're just about before the Franklin-Nashville campaign. Atlanta has burned. Atlanta has fallen. So our major supply areas have suddenly been, our major supplies have been decreased, as well as our ways to supply our armies in the field have been decreased. Our soldiers aren't eating. The civilian population isn't eating. I can't remember the exact, but I think like a barrel of flour is worth $100 Confederate dollars at this time. Things are not looking good for the Confederacy. And when you have thousands, tens of thousands, hundred thousands of prisoners of war, and the federal government has issued a stop trading prisoners, the Dixon cartel is done with, it's hard to feed that many people. It's hard to feed a starving nation on top of a starving army. So it wasn't like we had this excess supply of food. It's not like, I don't know, the Yale and Harvard rowing matches that have gone on forever are still going on in the war. It's not that that the North had such a, like, it's not like the South had like what the North had with a massive military industrial complex, to where, they were cranking out everything, from desiccated vegetables to hardtack to just constantly over and over, over an abundance of military and consumer goods. It's not like we had that. It's not like we could do anything else. We're trying to make ends meet as best as we can, trying to stretch it out. It's not like we had all those resources and supplies. It's not like we purposely starved them. Decisions had to be made. But the Yankees, they made the decision to starve our prisoners of war, including these 600 men that were being held at Fort Pulaski. I clicked away. Dennis visited was $300 Confederate dollars. Federal government was also attempting to starve the Southern civilian population as a war. Yeah. And that's exactly what it is. Exactly what it was a war measure. So if the civilian population is starving, if the military population is starving, it's their way to try to grind the South down to capitulate. We still fed the best that we could, but everybody was starving at that time. Everybody was. Anyway, so they're transferred to Fort Pulaski in Georgia. While they were there, disease starts to go through. Well, let me backtrack for a second. Casualties start to max or amount out of the men. 3 of the 600 died from these substance on starvation rations that were given, and the starvation rations that were given was I remember reading moldy cornbread or cornmeal. And even then, it was only 10 ounces of moldy cornmeal and half a pint of soured pickled onions.
Don't forget the worms.
That's what's, yeah. Thank you, Harrison, for reminding me that the cornmeal had, weevils and worms and everything else in there. So yeah, you did get a little bit of protein, but
yeah. One soldier tried to pick out all the worms, and the guy writing the letter said he picked out 50 or 60 worms, and he just had to stop because he was destroying the cornbread, and he still had to eat, and it was just destroying what little he did have.
Yeah. So yeah, so there's that. They did supplement their rations with the occasional rat or stray cat. But 3 of them ended up, being starved to death. As a result of the rations being issued that way, dysentery was rampant amongst them, as was scurvy, and 13 men died of the dysentery and scurvy. They were crowded into the fort's casemates, which is not, they're not that big when you look at it. I do have my pictures pulled up. So this is from the National Park Service. I took that one when we were at Fort Pulaski. This is looking into one of the casemates with replica bunks. This is a picture of the bunks from one angle. Pictures of the bunks from another angle. We found, I don't have a picture of the sign, but this is another casemate that the men were kept in. And you also have to remember that Fort Pulaski sits on an island, Cockspur Island, and It's surrounded by water. When we were there, it felt like it was 90 degrees out there, or 95 degrees, but it felt like it was 8,000.
Yeah, not to mention they weren't being given water either.
Right.
And the water they were given was dirty. I think a soldier gave an account that a lot of the men started digging in the ground and letting the water seep in. And that's what the water they would be drinking that day.
Yeah. And again, that water that's seeping in is from that moat. And that's not a very good looking water source. Eventually, they did come off those rations. And the prisoners began organizing their own relief association for Port Pulaski for the aid and relief of the sick and less fortunate prisoners. They elected officers like Colonel Abraham Fulkerson of the 63rd Tennessee. He was elected as president. They began raising funds from what they had, and they collected and expended $11 on food and other supplies that they needed. They were eventually moved again. 5 of them would die at Hilton Head, South Carolina. And then they were moved again back to Fort Delaware, where another 25 died. So we have 600 minus 3 minus 13 minus 5 minus 25. That's 554 remaining. Some of the men did try to escape, as they're being moved later on. But go ahead.
Correct me if I'm wrong, because again, this was the part where I was kind of having to cut in and out and start getting ready for the show. But a lot of them didn't get released until after the war. They were kept, for the whole entire war. This wasn't the end of their torment.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, though. They could have. At any time they wanted to. They could have taken the oath of allegiance, they could have swallowed the dog, and they could have ended their torment. But these men chose to suffer. They chose to go through with it. They chose to remain loyal to their cause, to their new nation, or their new country, to their home states, to what they were willing to risk life and limb for. They chose to remain.
Just because now I'm pissed. Connor, why would they suffer like that, do you think? What were they suffering for?
Well, because in my mind, they're suffering just like the Revolutionary War soldiers did at Valley Forge, or at the worst winter in New Jersey, I can't remember. Because they were fighting for their homes, they were fighting for their loved ones, and they were fighting for their independence. Their independence and their rights that were given by God, that were enshrined in the federal Constitution, that the federal Constitution later trampled on, and that they said, okay, if you're not going to live by the rules that we agreed to, then you know what? We're going to do what is right, what is honorable, what is our rights, as said in the Declaration of Independence, to create our own and independent nation. Because I can't remember exactly how Jefferson wrote it, because I'm getting ticked off. But government comes from the consent of the masses, and that any people anywhere have the right to alter or abolish a government and follow, create a new one that fits their needs. That may have been Lincoln that said that in 1848, but it may have been Jefferson that said in the Declaration. Lincoln does a 180 at some point and goes crazy, and completely abandons. Yeah. Well, so was his wife, but they were loyal. They were loyal,
and I'm sure you're getting at what I was getting pissed about, because these men.
Well, Yeah, and who the hell wants to go through all that suffering and everything like that for what what the northern school books and teachers say the war was fought over? There has to be more to it than that. That's I mean that's the thing. Who is going to remain through those conditions just to keep chattel slavery? I'll go ahead and say it. Who's going to do that?
For some rich sucker back in so many lands. I mean, heck, the North still had it, but that stuff is the thing that pisses me off, because they could have easily said the oath of allegiance if they were truly fighting for something that honestly the majority of them didn't have. Yeah. So why?
Well, because like I said, because they understood the principles that their ancestors fought for in the revolution, the first revolution, the 1776 revolution. They understood what was at stake. They understood how the government was supposed to work. They saw that the government was no longer being that Jeffersonian ideal of the Constitution. It was going towards this Hamiltonian centralist government that we still have to this day. And they said, hey, you know what? We don't want a part of this. We don't like this perverting of the Constitution that has happened. Again, my views and opinions, but we don't want this. We want out. And peacefully left. And when they could not be peacefully allowed to leave, forced in at the point of a bayonet.
Oh, I forgot how much these types of episodes pissed me off.
Yeah. But you won't hear that in a history book. You won't hear that, in modern academia. You won't hear about, the as we've mentioned, the doors we have opened, the crimes against crimes against humanity, obviously, but the crimes against the civilian population with the shelling of Charleston, nor the fact that the Shenandoah Valley was torched. So, the Confederacy couldn't supply their own civilians or their own men. But you don't hear about how you do in Gone with the Wind and other things, but how Georgia was torched, which was another bread basket of the Confederacy, or the Golden Triangle in Mississippi was torched, or how the Federals purposely flooded the Yazoo Mississippi Delta, or things like that. You don't hear about that. You don't hear about how Fort Delaware was used as a place, not before it was a Confederate prisoner of war, but it was also a prisoner or a prison for political dissidents against the Lincoln administration. You don't hear about that. You don't hear about mistreatments of prisoners of war, like what happened with the Immortal 600, like the guys at 80 Acres of Hell at Camp Douglas in Chicago. You don't hear about Helmira. You don't hear about Point Lookout. You don't hear about all these other places. The fact that the federal government and what they are putting out there says, oh, well, the mortality rating at Fort Delaware was only 7.6%. And they take that with pride. Meanwhile, you have a Yankee Nation that is sitting there, and again, as I mentioned earlier, the Harvard and Yale annual rowing match went every year in the war. It never skipped. It would be like the Iron Bowl. To make that into a Southern euphemism, it'd be like the Egg Bowl or the Iron Bowl not being missed. I know.
And what pisses me off more is not only did they commit all these crimes and what I'm just going to call our enemy in today's modern history world is the fact that if they do go into these atrocities that happened to the South during the war, they try to blame it on the South. Like when I was getting ready for tonight's episode, they actually tried to justify the treatment of the Immortal 600. Justify it. To say that, well, it was payback. The South did it first.
Comparing apples and oranges. You have women and children being shelled in a city and a civilian population being actively targeted versus taking them and putting them in front of a military target. That's two separate things. Then again, you have a federal army that is or armies that are wreaking havoc all across the South, that are burning out homes, they are burning out everything. One of the Kennedys said it earlier, but the actual extermination of these Southern people, not only on the military front but on the home front. And you have a government that's trying to figure out, okay, we really want to win our independence. All right, right over here. We need to make sure that Robert E. Lee is getting so many supplies. We need to make sure that the Army of Tennessee is getting so many supplies. And then we have bread riots in the Capitol because we can't, our civilian women cannot afford the price of bread, because they have gone through and created counterfeit money and completely inflated our economy. Yeah, I forgot to mention that. Meanwhile, in 1865, when Robert E. Lee surrenders to Grant at Appomattox and he asks for 30,000 rations, Grant gives them to him like that and says, "Do you need more?"
Yeah,
but we're the
had
bad guys.
plenty. Yeah. We couldn't feed our own people. We couldn't feed our own soldiers. And we were trying our best to give our POWs, the Union POWs, as much food as we can. But yet, that was their justification. Like it or not, a strong federal government that had enough supplies for their POWs and their armies and their citizens, mind you. Again, you talked about Harvard and Yale. They're obviously not hurting. Lincoln's not hurting in the White House. The citizens aren't hurting. But yet, it's our fault. And they do that with every single issue when it comes to
Jason
war
Lloyd,
crimes at the South.
and Jason Lloyd makes a good point. The Yankee government was willing to starve their own soldiers. Tells you all you need to know about them in order to coerce the South back into the Union by force. And he's right, because they issued those starvation orders against Confederate prisoners of war in retaliation for the treatment of federal soldiers in Confederate prisoners of war or Confederate prisoner of war camps. All they would have had to have done is start the Dixon cartel back up.
Mm-hmm.
All they would have had to say is, "Hey, we want to do a prisoner exchange."
Our commander-in-chief has made a good point. Exporting.
Yeah.
While we were starving. Apparently, they're citizens, even though we had rightfully succeeded and practiced independence.
Well, let's go
by Lincoln's eyes.
Yeah, by Lincoln's eyes, but after he gets his brains blown out, the radical Republicans who made the southern states reapply to join the Union.
Yeah. That was starting history books.
Yeah. Well, no, it wasn't mine because the Radical Reconstruction Plan and Commander-in-Chief Kennedy or one of them, I can't remember which Kennedy said it earlier. I just remember seeing the name. These guys, when they do get out of the war, they then have to go back and fight Reconstruction. They have to go back to a destroyed Southland. They have to go back to burnout fields. They have to go back to being taxed off their homes, everything like that, and try to rebuild
not
their
having
life.
a home.
Yeah.
Because, like in the case of Charleston, it's been blown to smithereens.
Right. Or Jackson, Mississippi, burnt 4 times, or Vicksburg shelled to hell and back like Charleston, or Richmond shelled to hell and back and burnt like Charleston. Or
Oxford just targeted the public citizen houses.
Yeah. Brandon, Mississippi, my hometown, or what I claim to be my hometown, even though I've lived everywhere, but I've lived here the longest. In 1864, February of 1864, the Brandon Brandon Republican, wrote that after Sherman's army went through there wasn't a rooster to crow and tell the impeding dawn. Everything was taken. In fact, this is a little fun fact for you here, Moose. I know we got to wrap up. The only Mississippian who did not sign the Ordinance of Secession, his name was Jacob Thompson from Brandon, even though because he was voted as a non-secession delegate, was in Brandon when it happened, because even though he was against it when Mississippi left, he still went off to fight and was wounded severely at the Battle of Shiloh. Anyway, when
a great country, man.
Yeah. And when the Federals in were getting ready to torch Brandon, and they found out that he lived there and that he was the only one that did not sign the secession ordinance, you know, a wounded veteran, you know, he said, "No, you're going to burn my house too if you're going to burn out my neighbors." Fun fact for you. But still, you know, torched everything. Yeah, and again, but we're the bad guys. We're the bad guys.
Oh yeah, we're just the second to the devil himself.
But you know what? We're supposed to be thankful for this, you know, 160 plus years of Yankee occupation and subjugation. We're supposed to stand by and sit there and take the continual subjugation and, in my opinion, desecration of our rights. We're supposed to sit back and be thankful for all this, and we're supposed to, just like Patrick Claiborne prophesied before his death in 1864, we're supposed to look at our veterans with disdain and, you know, treat our Confederate ancestors and treat them with disgust.
It's not just our ancestors anymore. It's all of Southern history. If you're not with the empire now, today in 2024, then, you know, you're against them.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you're a traitor.
Yeah, you're a traitor.
Your ancestors were traitors, and therefore you're a
Founders were traitors. Heck, you can go back 20 years and 2000s. You agree with Bush, you're a traitor.
Yeah.
It blows my mind. Academic historians are modern
day academics, modern days academics and historians, so-called historians, are ruining this nation.
They're ruining this nation because they're destroying its history, and they're happy to do it. Some of them are dumb enough to not even realize they're doing it.
Yeah, there's a group, I'm not going to call their name, but they say that they support historic preservation, and they put a post on their website. Why is insert name of organization here calling for the removal of Confederate monuments if we're all about historical preservation? Well, you're not. Want to think. Yeah, you're. And again, it goes back to that quote from Winston Churchill that I absolutely love, or supposedly Winston Churchill. I'm going to bring it up because I've got it right here.
It's still in our update slide.
Yeah, well, it's in our slides. But one of the signs that a great society is the diligence with which it passes culture from one generation to the next. This culture is the embodiment of everything that the people of that society hold dear: its religious faith, its heroes. When one generation no longer esteems its own heritage and fails to pass the torch to the children, it is saying, in essence, that the very foundational principles and experiences that make the society what it is are no longer valid. This leaves that generation without any sense of definition or direction, making them the fulfillment of Karl Marx's dictum: a people without a heritage are easily persuaded. In such a situation, leaders must emerge who have not forgotten the discarded legacy and who love it with all their hearts. They can then become the voice of that lost generation, wooing an errant generation back to the faith of their fathers and back to the ancient foundations and bedrock values. And guess what? We can be that generation. Mm-hmm. We can be that voice. We can become that voice that wins the lost generation back.
Oh, we're stealing this. Look at Dr. Mitchum coming in with some hard facts.
Yeah, no kidding.
97% of researchers will back the views of their funders. Because, I mean, yeah. Thank you, Dr. Mitchell. Ooh, yeah, this is, I have a migraine.
That's why we started off the show kind of silly. That's why we started off kind of silly and joking, because we were going to dive into some really heavy stuff. And we want y'all that are still watching or watching this later or listening to the podcast to go and do your own research on this men. And
Please.
when you're doing research, I mean, don't just stop with just the Immortal 600. Those doors and other avenues that you can look into and you can talk about or you can learn about them, so that when you go out there and that you are standing, at a recruiting booth at a gun show or at your local festival or you're walking through Walmart wearing a logo ball cap or logo shirt or SCV chat shirt or whatever, and somebody asks you, hey, why are you in the Sons of Confederate Veterans? Why in the 21st century, when the world is screaming that you should not be proud of being Southern, so you should not be proud of being Confederate? Why do you do that? So you can stand up and say, honestly, and with your own research, and don't just take this 31-year-old and this 20-something-year-old's word for it. Do your own research and look and say, I have done my research. I know the truth. I have seen the truth. And the truth is this: the federal armies did this to my ancestors, be it my Confederate ancestors that fought or my civilian ancestors that were left at home. They did this after the war. They did this to their own population. My Confederate ancestors fought for the principles of what was and is and should be America. And with that, I'm going to shut up.
Well, I don't know if there's any better way to say that other than the fact that if you don't stand up with us, if you don't learn, we're not saying you have to take everything we say with 100% truth, but research.
No, we ask that you don't take us at 100% truth. The one thing that I'm going to say this. I'm going to piggyback to another point of view here in a second. I was interviewed for a documentary on the real flag of Mississippi that's on your hat a couple of years ago, and I gave a speech on the south side of the new Capitol in Jackson, and I introduced myself as an unreconstructed millennial. And the documentarian asked me, well, what do you mean by unreconstructed millennial? I say, I don't believe what I was taught in schools, because my father, God rest his soul, just like Harrison's father, not only gave me an alternative point of view, but encouraged me to do my own research and make up my own mind.
Real quick on that topic before you switch gears, I had two types of history teachers in my life. I've had my father. Yes, he gets balloons. And he told me, hey, you need to go out and study history. You need to go out and find your own resources. You need to go out and tell me if I'm wrong, and we can talk about it. You bring your resources, I'll bring my resources. And then I go to college. And you want to know what they don't like in college? Any debate?
Questioning them.
You can't. It's a sin in college history to question the history being taught. Out of those two history teachers, which one do you want? The one that encourages you to learn on your own, find out things, bring it to the table, or the one that says, no, this is it and you have to learn it?
Yeah. And again, that kind of goes back to the Southern ideology. Learn your own thing, do your own research, or hey, I'm going to force feed you this and you are going to accept it no matter what. Again, listen to our first episode dealing with, Albion Seed and Yankee culture versus, Southern culture and everything like that.
Go to our website.
We go into that. But again, it's the bedrock of what their culture is all about, is forcing their ideas, their narrative, their ideology down your throat. We encourage you to go and actually do your research. You could say that, but here's the thing. Yeah, this is SCV chat, but I'm glad you still have the Miss Linda's comment up. This is not just for us. This is for the women in the UDC. This is for the women in the OCR. This is for all Southerners everywhere. Because, in 1906, SD Lee gave us, the SCV, our charge. But he gave everybody else a charge too.
Amen.
Whether you were a son, whether you were a daughter, whether you were a member of the Ladies Association, to all Southerners and all Americans everywhere.
Amen. And it's time that you stand up and defend it.
Mm-hmm. that's yeah, and I will go ahead and say one thing that does make me hopeful and somewhat fired up. I've been watching with being a political scientist by training. I've been watching a lot more news lately than I have over the past couple of months, and I tend to listen to well, first of all, if I'm going to watch any type of political address, I watch it on C-SPAN to not get any spin. But I try to listen to a little bit from every single program, to hear the different talking points on Fox News. On Fox News, which is not that Confederate friendly. They have one.
No.
Well, they have one, host who's on there with, just like how I have, little Robert E. Lee behind me and Norman. He has a bust of Abraham Lincoln behind him, and he loves to throw around. And if you can kind of catch who I'm doing the mimic voice of, you can figure out who it is. But he likes to throw around that the Democratic Party is the party of slavery and the Republican Party is the party of Lincoln and freedom. So you can probably figure out who who that sounds like. But still, Fox News, my views and opinions, actually made it to a point to talk about the neo-Marxist culture that's on one political side of the spectrum, and said that if you want people that are continuing to do X, Y, Z and removing monuments, the fact that now mainstream media is throwing monument destruction, which I know it's a lot more than our monuments that have been destroyed. It's a lot more, but a vast majority of ours. Yeah. But the fact that they are starting to paint the other side as a political attack means something. It means that they are seeing that, hey, we're right and we have a chance for victory.
And I agree. We do have a chance for victory.
So if the mainstream media is bringing up the fact that, one of our key issues is correct, that we're on the right side of our key issue, that suddenly the rest of them are going to start thinking, what other key issues were they right about? We are on the edge of the great Confederate pushback. And, it's time for us to not necessarily load our guns, but it's time for us to load our guns in a different way, i.e., books. Books are our bullets, and money
Amen.
Is our bayonets. So load your knowledge bank with what your ancestor really fought for, what these men went through. Dive into the multifacets of the war. Use this as a jumping off point, especially if you were just hearing this and you were somewhat interested in the war between the states. Dive into it and read more. And if you are already in there, help our institutions. Our National Confederate Museum at Elm Springs that tells the story, the true story of the South. Donate to that. Join the 21st Confederate Heroes thing. Let's get that museum paid off so that the world can see what exactly our ancestors fought for. We're almost there, and we can get there. Just I think it's 12 cents a day per member, and we could be paid off by next July.
It's up to you.
I mean, that's our two biggest weapons. Third biggest weapon, take this fire that you're share it obviously. But the fire that you're feeling inside of yourself right now, it is the middle of the month. Some camps have already met. Some camps have yet to meet. If you are a camp that is yet to meet, go back to your camp, take this fire that's in you right now, and be the change you want to see in your camp.
Hear, hear.
And get out there in your communities and do something. Bring notice to yourself. Bring notice to your ancestors, and bring notice to the truth. Don't let this fire and this feeling be allowed to morph back into the same old same, eat, meet, and retreat. Take it and run with it. That's all I got.
All I got to say, if you run with it, and if you do the charge and defend our history and heritage, they won't stand a chance.
Yeah. Truth will come to light every time. Forgot to bring this one up. When we were talking about it. That's the monument to. Well, I got a better picture of it. I'll save and put in there.
Yeah.
One that's not.
We already went down that rabbit hole.
Yeah. Hey, take your change that you'd have left there that the National Park Service and the federal government's taking from you to, I don't know, lie about your ancestors and mail it into the National Museum, save it up. Could do that. Just saying. But these are the names of the 13 men.
Yeah.
These 13 men who left their homes, Georgia, Virginia, North Carolina, Missouri, it looks like. I don't have my glasses on. Tennessee, Florida, and are buried hundreds, if not thousands of miles away from their homes. Didn't return back. Died between November 13th, 1864 and March 14th, 1865. Let their legacy mean something. Don't make their sacrifice be in vain. Don't let the fact that for a little under 150 years that they lied unmarked on federal soil, not even free soil, that they did not even have the right to die as free men. So anyway, we got a bunch of good heavy stuff for the second half of this episode. So we hope you enjoyed the heavy stuff as well as the light stuff at the beginning. We tried to position it that way.
Best.
What are you doing this weekend, Moose?
Oh, well, I'm glad you asked that. There's actually a cool event I'm going to this Saturday.
Love you, Dr. Mention, but we're going to take that Jeff Davis quote. All right, so for those that are who may remember, Carl and Nancy Ford were two phenomenal Mississippians. Carl was division commander. Miss Nancy, we used to jokingly say, was our second best division commander because she was there with Mr. Carl, just along with everything. Just like how, so many of our women are the backbones of our leadership. We've talked about that. They were patriots. They were Southern patriots. In the 1990s, they started a historical conference focusing on the South's rich history, heritage, and culture. After they passed away, the conference just kind of died. But we have restarted it in their name. So this year is the inaugural Carl and Nancy. This weekend is the inaugural Carl and Nancy Ford Southern Culture, History, and Heritage Educational Conference. It's going to be a great day, packed in with a lot of great speakers. We're not just covering the war between the states. We're actually hoping to cover a vast majority of Southern history. So we will have Carl Jones, AOT councilman, friend of the show, and sometimes guitar player. Here he will be talking about secession and the Constitution. He will be followed by Grady Howell. Grady Howell's an amazing Mississippi historian. He has just come out with a book on the Mississippi Rifles during the Mexican-American War. That, of course, was Jeff Davis's unit. We will have Larry McClooney talking about his newest book, Plane, Trains, and Automobiles. I mean, Gunboats, Bayous, and Trains, I think is the name. So that'll be our War Between the States portion, and then we'll have Ryan Walters, who's been on the show before, talking about Reconstruction. Registration is at $40 at the door. It does include lunch. However, we did a pre-registration for Mississippians only. We ordered enough meals for 36 people. So if you are planning on coming, go to Mississippi SCV. Well, I'll pull it up really quickly.
Mississippi.org, and you can go from there. Find it pretty easy, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. So I'm going to present the screen really quickly. Mississippi SCV.org. That's MISSI SCV.org. Heritage Conference registration. So you can very easily fill this out and submit it. If you are a vendor, if you have your let us know, because we can still get some meals in at this point. But the day of, it's going to be kind of cutting it close. But it'll be a great day in the South. Of course, it's open to. It's
Talk
open
about that
to
later.
it's open to men, women, children, SCV, non SCV, everybody.
Even Yankees, if they really want to learn.
Yeah, so great day of history. We're glad to get this started off. We'll kick off at 8:30 in the morning, and where it's in Raymond, Mississippi. So if you're near the area,
even if you're not.
Raymond is a very historic town. The Battle of Raymond was fought there. We're right near the battlefield and the Confederate cemetery. It's kind of off the beaten path, so would encourage everybody to if you can make it, great. If you can't, we're not going to live stream it. But we will be doing this every year going forward. Also, really quickly, what are you doing tomorrow night, Moose?
Well, I'm watching Look Around Florida.
I probably will. Depends on my work schedule. Reminder to tune in tomorrow for Look Around Florida with Sean McFall. That is actually 8 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time until we change over to stick back to Standard Daylight Time. And Confederate Daylight Time as well. So 7 p.m. So check that out. Make sure you're giving Sean a like. Sean does a great job with his program.
Phenomenal.
What you doing Thursday?
Well, it's time for a look around the Confederation on Thursday.
Remember, if you have any news, pictures, videos, or other write-ups, please send them to scvyouthOutreach@gmail.com to be featured. Please have them in by 3 p.m. so that we can make sure that we get them on there. And please try to phonetically spell out tough town names.
On Friday, there'll be a Friday night chat on Douglas Southall Freeman Group. Great show themselves. And, of course, I don't want to forget the Sunday Night Live done by Michael Hardy.
Yeah, Michael C. Hardy. So pretty much, other than Wednesday, you can get some type of historical Southern / Confederate themed programming.
Great shows, too.
Yep. Remember to help us out by joining Patreon. Our Patreon is active. It is live.
And you'll be getting a new exclusive episode on it soon.
Yeah, we've got to go and record it.
At some point.
Yeah. We've just been very busy trying to do stuff.
Honestly. It's flooded.
But remember that you can listen to this episode by going to scvchat.com. You can catch most of our pre-recorded episodes on. I don't know why yours does it and mine doesn't.
I'm special, I guess.
I think I turned that setting off.
You can turn it off.
I think I did. We'll have to look
you
at
can.
that.
How about that? How about that?
So again, for pretty much SCV headquarters, SCV chat headquarters, scvchat.com, a bunch of great things on here, like episodes, our archives, being able to listen to some of our great old stuff, our podcast where you can find and listen to us on all these different platforms. And again, if you want to support us, you have 2 different ways you can do that. With the support us page, you can join our Patreon, or you can get one of our t-shirts at bonfire.com. Again, our t-shirts at bonfire.com. You can get the chat t-shirt like that one. You can get the South was right in 1861 because of 76. Tom Jefferson, Robert E. Lee. My favorite, the All We Ask Is to Be Left Alone, Jeff Davis. Patrick Claiborne, the I'm with the South in Victory or in Death. It's actually available in green, or the Attack in All Directions, what we need to do with Nathan Bedford Forrest. It's available in Tennessee Orange. Hey, football season starts at the end of the month. Go Vols. Don't say anything about the Flames. No one cares.
All right, then. So thank you guys for watching.
Yeah.
All right,
and in
then.
the words of the late and great Harold Philpotts, no Fumar in the elevator.
Fumar.
Hey, really quickly before we stop, if you have a YouTube account, go subscribe to the YouTube page.
Do it now.
Go subscribe to the YouTube page. You can do that as we're doing the end credits.
And remember to stay Southern.